Welcome in to The Scoop, UNC football recruiting, the number one UNC football recruiting podcast in the world, brought to you by Inside Carolina and Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. We're recording this on Wednesday, May 26th, around 11:30. Don, where are you right now?
I am actually in Cary, North Carolina, sitting outside a Chipotle where the drive-through is literally to my right, your left. So as each person kind of and it's packed. I mean, the line is super long. So as each person kind of comes up, they all give me this weird stare because I have the headphones on.
I wonder if they know you're the number one expert for UNC football recruiting in the world.
I wonder if they know I'm talking to Ross Martin.
There you go. All right, so we got Don on location, kind of. I think the first time you record a podcast, not in that little setup you have. I recorded them all over the world, Connecticut.
I think I might have done one from like Spartanburg or a hotel one time.
Okay. All right, cool.
We'll
have to get research on that. All right, guys, we have a huge show. Actually, a really cool show. We're going to preview all of June. June is set up to be a huge month for all recruiting, football and basketball, and especially football recruiting because the open period begins June 1st. And this is the first time players have been allowed on campus in an official and unofficial basis since before the pandemic, which was in March. So you remember all those, visits around basketball season in 2020. That was the last time visits were allowed. It was then shut down. And so the 3 or 4 weeks in June are going to be crazy. We're going to break down all of that and preview kind of what June looks like for UNC. We're going to get into some recruitments of some certain players in the 2022 class, just based on some stuff from Don's weekly scoop, some names that stand out, some developments there. We're going to talk about the status of quarterbacks in the 2022 class for UNC. And then we're going to bring on Kamarro Edmonds, 2021 running back signee, who's going to enroll at UNC here in a couple weeks, coming off. Did he win a state championship, Don?
No, they played in the state. They went undefeated until losing in the state championship, and he was injured during that game, but did come back. But it was just too late.
Okay, so Kamarro Edmonds will come on for a short interview. He expects to be in the mix at running back for UNC over the next 3 or 4 seasons in Chapel Hill. And we're going to close with our top 5 documentaries. We have a couple submissions from our loyal listeners, and Don and I will give our top 5 documentaries. Don, anything else you want to get on the schedule there?
No, we have a lot to cover in a short period of time, and I'm excited to talk to Kamarro. I talked to him about a week ago, so good to get him on the podcast because we haven't had a guest on for a while. We haven't had a recruit guest on for probably a year or so.
For sure. Okay, first, Don, tease your top 50. You're going through your top 50 players in North Carolina for the 2022 class, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
tell us what's going on and tell us how people can find those stories.
Yeah, so if you're an Inside Carolina, longtime Inside Carolina subscriber, you know I do this 10 at a time, starting on Monday, ending on Friday. We are recording on Tuesday, so we are at Wednesday. God, my days run together. So we're at the 20s for where we're at on the top 50. And I got to tell you, this was probably the most difficult year for a lot of different reasons. The COVID stuff, mostly just not having reliable heights and weights on guys. And that's so important because for most positions, your height dictates not only what you might play, but dictates what level of play that you are kind of sort of slotted for, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it really, really difficult. Also, just because there hasn't been a whole lot of, exposure for a lot of guys. We had a very shortened season in North Carolina. I started, the way I do it, I rank positions first and kind of jumble around and everything. And then I kind of put the 50 together, which ends up being like a 75 because I have 25 honorable mentions. Where my initial draft of it, I didn't have 75 guys. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing board, do some deep diving, reach out to some scouting services that I have connections to find some additional guys. So it was a mess. I think I like to kind of do things differently or have some shock. I don't like to go with what the perception is. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people, there's a perception on certain guys. I like to make sure I do my own thinking. And I think more than any other year, there's going to be a lot of shock
Yeah.
positioning in the rankings because of the fact of the limited information that's been out there on these guys for everybody else. But I've actually, I'm probably one of the few people. Usually, the college coaches have seen these guys. I'm one of the few people in the world who have seen most of these guys on this list in person.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think that there's anyone else unless you're a scouting service like Exos or Prep Nation who has seen these guys in person like as many as I have.
Yeah, shocking. Don's shocking top 50. Such a wild card. You're such a bad boy with making it so shocking for us.
I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. I don't want you to look at it and be like, all right, yeah, this is what everybody else is ranking.
Yeah.
This is what the offers are telling me. This is what, I don't like that. I want to look at it, forget about the offers, forget about what everybody else is telling me about how good a kid is.
Look
Not
at
that
tape.
I don't take, yes, look at the tape. Not that I don't take others' opinions in, because I definitely consulted with a bunch of people who were able to see my first couple of drafts before I published it and got their takes and try to see what they saw, sort of thing. But I mean, this is my own thing that I do, just looking at the kids from what I've seen in camps and on film.
Okay, yeah. So check that out on Inside Carolina for premium subscribers. If you're into high school football in the state of North Carolina, no other source, Don Callahan. You have to be a Inside Carolina premium subscriber to get those. Every story is behind a paywall, but definitely worth the price of admission. Okay, Don, let's get into it here. We have about 15 minutes or so before we bring on Kamarro. If we don't get into everything, we'll talk about those players after Kamarro. So don't feel rushed here. But I was going through your weekly scoops. We haven't talked in 3-4 weeks because we had to skip a podcast. For what reason?
We were trying to get guests, and there wasn't a whole lot going on.
Yeah. May is super slow in general, I've just noticed. So we delayed 1 week to make sure we had a guest because I think a lot of players had exams. But that's okay. Here we are. So let's go through some things that stood out to me. Yeah, education school first here on the Scoop podcast. Okay, first, quarterbacks. I looked at your weekly scoop when you had your mock class, and there was no quarterback listed, Don. So what is UNC doing right now for the 2022 class at quarterback? What's Phil Longo got cooking? What do you think is going to happen there? Because there's obviously there's kind of a path now. You got Sam Howell, then behind him you have
Jacoby Criswell
from Arkansas, and then you have Drake May. So it's kind of shows you the trajectory. What's UNC thinking about doing with the 2022 quarterback spot?
So initially, we talked about how because of what you laid out, it's a very intimidating depth chart to try to recruit to. So the initial plan was, hey, let's get a developmental guy, let's build him up. Obviously, developmental guys aren't going to have as many options as more polished guys. UNC somewhere within the last couple of months decided, hey, let's get a legit dude. And that initially was Braden Locke, who, after taking a visit to North Carolina for the spring game and taking a visit to Mississippi State for his spring game, decided to commit to Mississippi State, which has a way better quarterback situation for an incoming 2022, which is what North Carolina was kind of worried about. So then the plan was there's a handful of guys that the staff really likes. We have summer camps right around the corner. Let's wait for the summer camps. Let these guys work out, figure out which one we like best, because it's not just a physical evaluation, watching them throw and all that sort of stuff. It's talking to these guys, seeing how they interact with everybody else, spending some time with them. Because really, Longo is really big on, do they love football? That's really important to him, just because the extra hours you have to put in as a quarterback. And also, the quarterback puts in a lot of extra hours with Longo himself. So you got to jive with that guy. You can't, not everybody's like me and can work with someone they don't like. But but anyway, so then that all went out the window over the weekend when UNC offered a kid out of Alabama.
Oh.
And
what's his name?
His name is Connor. I had this up. I'm sorry. Connor Harrell. And he's a state championship quarterback at the highest level at in Alabama. Won the state championship this past fall. Has unbelievable numbers. He's a little bit undersized, which is why a lot of other schools have kind of shied away. But within the past couple of weeks, a brand new wave of scholarship offers came in, including North Carolina and Michigan over the weekend, that has kind of shaken up his recruitment a little bit. But I talked to him shortly after he received the scholarship offer, and we ran a story on Monday that goes into detail with everything. But North Carolina immediately jumps into this race with that scholarship offer. But you're referring to the mock class, and he wasn't offered at the time.
Gotcha. Yeah. So let me go through. Let me look at Connor. I did not know they'd offered someone. So I apologize to everyone out there. 6'1", 191. Maybe he's a little shorter than 6'1". Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Probably.
Yeah. From Alabaster, Alabama.
I would think. Yeah, looking at his film, looking at his numbers are unreal. If you look at his numbers, I think his touchdown to INT ratio was something like 43-2, which is amazing. Completed over 70% of his passes. I think he threw for over 3,000 yards. Now they played a full season, so you can't really compare that to the North Carolina guys. But he's playing against the highest level in Alabama, which is super impressive. Went undefeated the entire season, won the state championship. Which one of the subscribers on the message board actually found a really quick highlight of the state championship game, which was an absolutely nuts ending to a football game.
Okay, all the place there. Number 646 in the nation, number 13 dual threat quarterback, number 24 player in Alabama, and it has a good offer list. I mean, you look at it, like you said, you have Duke, Appalachian State, Arizona State, but then Vanderbilt, Northwestern. Seems like maybe an academic kid with those three offers, kind of in the warm section. Then you go into Arkansas State, and then it gets like Louisville's offered, Michigan's offered, Nebraska's offered, North Carolina's offered, TCU, Southern Miss, Tennessee is offered, UCF, USF. So Washington State, West Virginia. So a lot of Power 5 offers. So certainly a guy to pay attention to. So is he going to come to campus, you think, in June? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so he plans on visiting. I mean, obviously, a lot of this stuff is really new. I talked to him. He had not spoken to North Carolina at all until he spoke on the phone with Phil Longo when he offered him. So a lot of it figuring out. And it was actually earlier, about a week ago, he came out with a top 10, and he thought he was, all right, this is how I'm rolling with my recruitment. The top 10 was Arizona State, Duke, Indiana, Liberty, Louisiana, Lafayette, Nebraska, Northwestern, TCU, Vanderbilt, and West Virginia. He plans on knocking out 2 of those schools and then inserting North Carolina and Michigan. But he hasn't figured any of that out. Who's going to be knocked out? Who is he going to visit? He has some official visits set up, has some conversations with official visits, but a lot is up in the air with him.
All right. There you have it. Good stuff. I learned something new in this podcast. What we do, we learn new things about football and about each other. Okay, that's the quarterback situation, and make sure to pay attention to what Don posts on the board and his articles about the development of the 2022 quarterback situation for UNC. Let's get a couple more players in. Excuse me, before we bring on
Kamarro is ready. Whenever you want to bring him in. If you want to bring him in now.
Okay, let's do one more quarterback. Let's do one more player, and then we'll bring on Kamarro, and we'll do ad read. Then we'll bring on Kamarro, and we'll be good to go. Okay. All right.
Well, first we need to talk about. You mentioned it a little bit with with how busy June's going to be. Just a kind of little bit of a tease, we're going to have a mega June preview in the Weekly Scoop coming up next week. I don't know when this is going to be posted, but it's definitely going to be posted before that Weekly Scoop comes out. So definitely check that out. We're going to break down every major target that North Carolina has and where they plan on going in June.
So I imagine it's going to run June 1st, as that's a Tuesday next week.
Yes. Yep.
Cool. Okay, let's get into one more player, and then we'll bring on Kamarro Edmonds. Deuce Caldwell. I saw his name, and I didn't recognize it, and maybe that's my fault. Contrary to popular belief, I have other interests outside of UNC football recruiting. But what's going on with him? A safety, 6'1", 210 from South Carolina. Not super highly ranked, 1013 in the nation, 1013 in the nation, and the number 36 inside linebacker. Don?
Yeah, so he's one of the, I guess, I don't think I'm forgetting anyone, but prior to Connor Harrell being offered, he's the most recent. Deuce Caldwell is the most recent offer, which is probably why you haven't heard of him.
Okay.
Now, UNC, even though he's, I guess, ranked as a safety, UNC's looking at him as a linebacker. We've talked about before when we talked about Jalen Walker and everything. Linebacker, getting one linebacker in this class is pretty big, a pretty high importance for North Carolina. So here's a guy who's offered. He's scheduled an official visit in June. Also has an official visit scheduled with UCF. The potential staggering point for North Carolina is Clemson. He's supposed to camp there early in June. They haven't offered. Anyone who's been in Malden, South Carolina knows it's Clemson country. You can't go anywhere without seeing that orange everywhere. The funny thing is, and I don't know if you caught this in the weekly scoop, I included this in the extra scoops, was that after I ran his story, which kind of broke down, the official visit and his offer, I posted it. And then just like every other story, there's a bunch of comments from Inside Carolina subscribers, but a lot of them kind of just said he was going to go to Clemson. Even one said that he would probably walk on at Clemson before accepting a scholarship offer from North Carolina. That really kind of pissed off Deuce to the point where he reached out to me and kind of just shared his thoughts on that, saying it's not true. I'm not going to read the exact quote, but it's the complete quote that he sent me in a DM is in the weekly scoop. So definitely check that out, because I think it's kind of funny. Just the fact that I think most recruits don't read the message boards, but there definitely are a good chunk of them that do. So you got to be careful on what you're posting out there.
Yeah. And remember, like, if, when you have access to 24/7 sports and it's like Carolina, you have access to every message board, not just, maybe he has a family member who's a South Carolina or Clemson fan, have access to every message board. So you can see every article posted about you on every site. So you're seeing multiple boards. You may not be able to post on Inside Carolina, but you can read it for sure. Tons of offers: Alabama, Vanderbilt, West Virginia, UNC, Duke, East Carolina, Baylor, UCF. So definitely a recruit of interest. Deuce Caldwell could be one of the linebackers or the linebacker.
I think North Carolina wants. Well, they're recruiting other guys. They want one, definitely one. I don't think they'll take two, but they definitely want one. And Caldwell is one of the guys who's officially visiting next month. There are some others. Check out the weekly scoop next week to find out those names.
All right, great. Guys, when we come back, we're going to bring on Kamarro Edmonds, and we'll do a big interview with him. And after that, we're going to talk about Sherrod Coville, Travis Shaw, and Dalen Everett. Also want to talk a little bit more about June. Don previewed his weekly scoop. It's going to drop next week on June, but I want to get into a little bit more to give y'all an idea of what June's going to look like. I think it's going to be pretty hectic across the board. Commitments, visits, all that good stuff in June. So we want to give you a good preview of that, because we won't record until, into June. So stay tuned for that. When we come back, we'll bring on Kamarro Edmonds. But first, I want to talk to you about Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, your one-stop shop for everything UNC related. Things are opening up, going out to bars, going out to restaurants, going out to see family, going out to tailgates and games coming up here in the fall. Get all your gear at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com right on Franklin Street. They're a local business, locally owned, and we always want to support those local companies. They have Field Hockey National Championship T-shirts. Great chance to get that. They have water bottles. It's going to be hot. They have long sleeve, short sleeve. They have tank tops. Anything you need for the summer, get it at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Toys, games, field games for the summer. The Rams had cake topper. You a big cake topper guy, Don? They have fuzzy polka dot socks, long sleeve shirts, anything related to UNC. They have it all. Pretty sick soccer jerseys, golf polos, everything you need at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. And remember, all Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off with the code located on the premium message board. So join Inside Carolina, get that 10% off discount code, and do all your shopping for holidays, for friends, for family, for birthdays at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. We're going to play a couple national ads to get paid. When we come back, we'll have Kamarro Edmonds, UNC 2021 signee. He'll be a freshman this fall. Welcome back into the scoop, presented to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, part of the Inside Carolina Podcast Network. We have a very special guest now, 2021 running back, UNC signee, Kamarro Edmonds joins us. Did I say your first name right?
Sir, yes, sir.
Kamarro Edmonds, awesome. He's going to be enrolling at UNC in June and join the running back room in Chapel Hill. Thanks so much for joining us, Don.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, so, Kamarro, I really appreciate you coming on. You're the first signee of this class to come on, so congratulations for that honor. first topic I want to talk about is probably the freshest in your mind is your senior season, which was strangely held during the spring. What was it like, I guess, the last really year where you didn't have a senior season, all these other states were playing during the fall, and then you have this abbreviated season during the spring?
Well, I'm gonna say COVID kind of helped a little bit, but it still messed it up kind of because we had to like take a lot of breaks and we didn't get time to like practice as much, but it still gave us more time to work out and get mentally and physically focused for games. And it gave us more time to like get more film on people, you know, and that's why it looked like it was so easy this year. It was just blowing teams out left and right because we watched so much film and we studied them so well. So it kind of helped a little bit.
Awesome. So, Kamari, I'm gonna go through.
Speaking of that,
Oh,
you got.
go ahead. Don. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about just, you did blow people out most of the season, and then the state championship game, you faced a nemesis of Havelocks for a long time, which is Charlotte Catholic, and they ended up beating you guys, but it was a close game, and they didn't have you for a good portion of the game, though, but you did come back. Tell us just about what happened with the injury. What was it like being on the sidelines watching? Why'd you come back? Would you have come back if it was a regular season game? Just give us a rundown of that game.
I felt like we came out really slow that game. And, we'll let them beat us with pass, even though they run the ball. But, yeah, I got injured. I had a little ankle sprain. It was pretty bad. I came out and I couldn't really walk. I could barely run. And I just was like, it's my senior season. I got to play for the boys. I can't just sit here and give up and sit on the sideline and watch everybody. So I taped it up as tight as I could, and I just went back out there. And if it was a regular season game, I probably would have went out there because it's not as important as the state championship game, you know.
Great. Let's go through some stuff here. So you're listed at 5'11", 226 pounds. Is that what you are right now, or where are you with your weight?
I'm about 230 now.
230. Where does UNC want you?
They haven't really gave me like a legit answer yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I'm pretty sure when I get there, I'm gonna drop weight and just bulk up. Probably drop down to about 220 and just bulk up a little bit.
Yeah, drop some fat, add some muscle for sure. You're ranked, just for our listeners, Kamari is ranked 248 in the nation, number 13 running back, number 16 player in the state of North Carolina, 24/7 sports, 4-star from Havelock, North Carolina, Havelock High School, which is a state powerhouse. I watched some of your tape, and you're definitely a power back, but you certainly have speed to make the big play. You have a little quickness as well. How would you describe your game? Because, I mean, size-wise, you seem like a power back. What do you think you're going to bring to the table at UNC?
I got good vision. I'm elusive, and people think because I'm 230, I'm big. They don't think I can run. So when I get there, I'm just gonna show everybody I can run. you know. But yeah, I'm a power back. I don't think I can be tackled one-on-one by anybody at all.
Tell us about the Chucky doll. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, show us what you got there.
We had a little 7-on-7, like it was just a little fun, like a little thing. It was like the older guys that graduated or whatever before us that like 2013, they was getting state championships, 2012 and stuff. We played against them. And I was like, why not get a Chucky doll? I was watching the movie. I was like, Chucky doll. So I went up there, I seen him, and I didn't even think it was this big, but this thing is huge. But yeah, I just got him and I just started bringing him everywhere. And then I was like, why not bring him to the games, put some fear into the other teams. So I just started bringing him everywhere with me. And then everybody's just like, man, what's up with the Chucky doll? I'm just like, my dad always used to call me Killer Cam when I was little because I used to just demolish kids when I was younger. So Killer and the Killer.
Can you hold it up to show everybody? So if you're just listening and not watching, Kamarro is holding a pretty big, I'd say about a 3-foot Chucky doll with scratched up overalls and orange hair. It's pretty crazy stuff. Let's get back to UNC and your.
Well, I had one question though. You mentioned the 7-on-7 against some of the Havelock alumni. Some of those guys are playing in the NFL or have played in the NFL. Who were some of the competition you had out there on the opposite side of that 7-on-7?
Like Keon Joyner, Pharaoh,
I was wondering if Pharaoh was there. Is
I did.
is he still stud?
Oh, Farrell wasn't at the 707, but I did one-on-one.
Oh, okay.
Really? This when I was about 205 when I was playing DV. Back when I was playing DV, I had to guard him, and that did not go too well. But yeah, it was a bunch of players. I can't really remember all the names, but it was a bunch of players that played at Havelock. Some of them went to college, some of them didn't, but it was still fun to go out there and play. Guys, we beat them, of course, but it was still fun.
Let's go back to your recruitment. You know, you're an in-state guy. UNC was on you, but you have a bunch of offers from other schools. What was your recruitment like? What schools were you interested in during the process? I mean, looking at your list right now, you had South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest, Maryland, LSU, Louisville. Can you kind of give us a glimpse into kind of what your recruitment was like leading up to when UNC became the favorite?
Well, you know, everybody recruited me. A lot of coaches. I'll talk to a lot of coaches. I've been in a lot of places. You know, I wouldn't say it was like it was pretty crazy. It was just coaches left and right calling every night. I had to like make a schedule for coaches and phone calls at night. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get this coach on the phone at this time, then the next coach. But it was like to be honest, the schools it was between was UNC and really LSU and Virginia Tech. And then I was breaking it down. I'm like, why not play for North Carolina? You know, and I already had a bond with all the coaches there. And, you know, they just checked off all the boxes. You know, they have a good environment on and off the field. I love the atmosphere, you know. So I just I pulled the trigger and committed to UNC.
Where else did you visit during the recruiting process?
NC State, Tennessee, VTech, South Carolina, Duke. Trying to think where else I went.
You didn't make it to LSU.
Postal,
okay.
EC. You know.
Great. So you committed during the pandemic. I remember that April 3rd, 2020. And you mentioned about UNC. What was it like when the pandemic hit and you had to kind of finish up your recruitment during that? Was that weird? Was that odd? Or was it you kind of knew where you were going anyway?
Yeah, I already knew where I was going. Like my parents, we had to sit down and talk about it. Like, it's not far. No, it's not home. And it's a great school. So why not?
Yeah, I remember that you wanted to take a bunch of visits first because we were in this limbo constantly where the dead period was just being extended. It wasn't like it was now where it's been for a long time. It was like, all right, dead period's until this month and then until this month. And so I think you were one of the guys who was hopeful that you could take some visits. So was it like how hard was it to say, okay, I'm not going to finish basically your research, because I'm sure the visits were pretty important. How hard was it to say, okay, I'm not going to finish my research. I'm just going to make the decision based off of the information I have right now?
Yeah, it was kind of hard because I wanted to take a lot of visits to I wanted to go to LSU. I wanted to make a trip to Louisville and Maryland. I wanted to go to all those schools, and then COVID hit. I couldn't do anything. So I'm just like, I know a lot about UNC. So I really pretty much just cut a couple teams out, and I was like, well, this might be the school. And I'm thinking in my head, I kept getting on the phone with the LSU coach because that was the other school. I was like, man, I should go to LSU, but I'm like, that's a good school, but UNC's a good school, but LSU so far. But I'm like, I don't really know too much about LSU, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to go visit. So UNC was just that choice.
So a lot of people said that the pandemic kind of made a lot of recruits stay closer to home just because it made them realize just how important that is. Did that impact it, or was just North Carolina just so far ahead of the other schools for other reasons that made you choose North Carolina?
Yeah, I think UNC was just on top. They were just on top at the whole.
And you were kind of in there when the commitment list started to just grow and have some very vocal members. And how much of an impact did those guys have just kind of being in your ear all the time recruiting you?
Man, well, Keyshawn Silver, that's my guy. Him and Gabe Stevens, I was close to those guys. So Keyshawn really, he was like, man, why not? Why not come play for North Carolina? It's my city. Why not play for your state or whatever? And I was just like, yeah, you're right. So, and then everybody that committed just started texting me. It's like, yo, you coming, you coming, you coming. I'm like, I don't know. I'm telling everybody I don't know, but really I'm coming. So they had a part of that too.
Yeah,
So
you committed right after like all those other 4-stars committed with like Drake, Keyshawn, Eli Sutton, the wide receiver, Kobe Passor. They all committed. I think a month later you committed. Good stuff. What's it like when Mac Brown is on the phone with you? Like what's his recruiting pitch? What's that like? Because we've heard it in the media. You know, he's a really good talker, says all the right things. What's it like as a recruit?
Oh yeah, he's the GOAT, first of all. He's the GOAT. And yeah, he's a good talker. He's a funny guy. So we sit on the phone for hours joking about everything, about football, anything. We just joke. So yeah, he's a great coach though, you know.
What in particular, made, your relationship with him stand out from other coaches? Because I mean, all these guys are good recruiters. They all know what to say. Was there anything about Mac Brown and the staff in particular that kind of sold you to them?
Well, I mean, he really just made me feel like I was at home, you know. Those talks, you know, it just made me feel like I was at home. I felt real close. So
Speaking of the staff, when you committed, and actually even when you signed, Robert Gillespie was the running back coach. Since then, there's been a change at your position. So what's it been like, I guess, changing, to Larry Porter, developing that relationship and all that?
it was a little different. I just had to get close with him next. You know, me and Coach Porter, we talk all the time. So I'm just creating a bond before I get there. You know, I'm just waiting to meet him, and get to work.
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, what do you think about the running back room? They lost Javonte Williams. They lost Michael Carter. So you have the grad transfer Ty Chandler, Josh Henderson, DJ Jones, Elijah Green, Caleb Hood, and you, I think, are all the scholarship guys. So what do you think about that room? Have you talked to those guys? What's that like?
I talk to Caleb all the time. That's a good running back room though. I feel like we all have different abilities, and I feel like some of us got stuff to work on. So, but it's a good running back room.
What do you expect in year one? Like, do you think you can come in and get reps, get minutes? Do you think it's going to be? What do you think? I mean, that's lots of, like you said, it's a good room with a lot of good players, so it's going to be hard to break in as a rookie.
Yeah,
a lot of competition.
I just got to come in and work hard. Learn the playbook and go out there and do my job. I can't miss my assignments, so hopefully I can get in the first, second string. Get in there, try and work my way.
Great. And I always ask this to recruits about the signing class. Who are some characters in the class that stand out from like the group chat or any conversations? We know Keyshawn Silver. We know he's a character. Outside of him, who are some guys that we should know in the 2021 class for UNC?
Some characters.
Funny guy or anything weird or funny?
Ra is a funny guy. He's funny. And Diego too. It's between Diego, Keyshawn, and Ra. They're the funniest guys in the little group or whatever.
Awesome. Good to know you. Ra and Diego and Keyshawn are both already on campus. Anything else, Don, from you?
No, I'm just really happy that he basically this is his last interview I think it's his last interview as a recruit, at least from Inside Carolina. So thank you so much. I mean, I've been covering this guy since your sophomore year, maybe before that. Because I'm always going to Havelock. Every year I go to Havelock. Great coaches, great program there, great strength program. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So thank you so much, Kamarro, for all your time these past couple of years, and thank you for being a guest today.
No problem. Thank you too, man.
Yeah, Don got a little sappy there on you, Kamarro. How about that?
I was going to cry.
Yeah. I've been covering you since you were a freshman, and now you're going to college. All right, man. Hey, I'm looking forward to covering you. Good luck in transitioning to UNC, and we'll see you in the summer and in the preseason camp.
All right, no, thank you.
All right, see you, man.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're back. We're going to continue the podcast here straight through. I want to appreciate and thank Kamarro Edmonds for coming on. Don, what'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, gave some really good information. I always like after they sign, or if there's a good amount of distance between their commitment, or it's clear that they're not changing, just to kind of get their insight on just what they were really thinking. Because there clearly is a lot of stuff they don't tell you even when they commit about, who was it really down to, what was it really like, all that sort of stuff, just how strong of a lead did a particular team have and that sort of stuff. So I always find that aspect interesting. So I liked hearing that from him.
It seems like a situation where being in state really helped UNC.
Yeah.
He wasn't even able to visit LSU, which he said was one of his top schools.
Yeah. And I really think North Carolina benefited probably more than it hurt them when it came to the pandemic. And we've talked about this before. You look at Keyshawn Silver is probably my best example. I think that if there wasn't a pandemic, he ends up taking multiple official visits, probably to Florida, probably to LSU, probably some of these other schools. What happens then? You know what I mean? I mean, once your commit goes on an unofficial visit to an SEC school, all bets are off, and you're just kind of holding your breath the entire weekend.
Yeah, what do you think about us talking over each other during the interview?
Well, we're still. I only have one screen, and I know that's what you're used to. I'm used to having two screens to do this, so I didn't have my thing up. I had my phone down, but I learned that Slack is a lot slower on my phone than it is on my computer, so that was causing a little bit of a problem.
I want to apologize to listeners for that. We weren't communicating as well, and I think there's a little lag or delay on the Zoom.
We're going to get better.
And that affected. We talked over each other for a couple questions, which is always awkward. Part of the game in the virtual world. Okay, let's get right into it, guys. We got a couple more things to touch on before we get to our top five.
Well, what did you think of Kamarro?
Yeah, great guy. Seems like he has the right mindset. Never talked to the guy before in my life, and he checks all the good boxes.
Definitely
big
a hard
dude.
worker.
I mean, not to get weird with it, but massive thighs. You could just tell.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a big dude.
He's big,
and to be 230.
He's a big kid.
I did watch some of his tape from some of the playoff games, and he can really bounce outside and go the distance. Who knows if that speed will hold up at the college level with faster linebackers and defensive ends and everything. But power back with definitely some athleticism. So it's always good to have those guys along with the quicker running backs as well. All right.
Yeah. Good change of pace sort of thing. And you need it for the short yardage stuff, goal line stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, great.
I think there's definitely a role for him.
For sure. And him and Caleb Hood are kind of two bigger backs. So they kind of Elijah Green and DJ Jones, more the faster pass catching shifty backs. And right behind them, Caleb Hood and Kamarro are more of the bigger backs, goal line backs, that kind of stuff. All right, let's run through these quickly, Don. Not too long on the answers here. I know you're long-winded. We don't want to lose any listeners here. Sherrod Coville, his name was mentioned a bunch by you in the last couple scoops and in an interview. What's going on with his recruitment, and how does it impact what UNC's doing?
So UNC actually offered him a long time ago. It was one of the first schools to offer him before really he kind of blew up. UNC was in great position, and then they kind of fell off a little bit to the point where he came out with the top 11 that did not include North Carolina. Dre Bly, which we've talked about as far as him as a recruiter, was able to get UNC back into that race. We read a story, I think it was last week, maybe a week before, that with him, kind of breaking down just what's going on. He's still a little bit, I guess, trying to figure out what he's going to do in June. He has some visits scheduled, including one to North Carolina. We'll have more on that with the Weekly Scoop next week. But UNC's back in this race. I think there's still some ground to gain back on some of these other schools. The competition is pretty stiff. But I think some of this, too, I mean, he has a bunch of really good scholarship offers. Some of it, you kind of wonder how legit how serious are some of these schools with him. I mean, he's a very good player. But some of these schools are kind of filling up pretty quickly.
I should know this in the intro. Sherrod Coville, safety, 6 foot, 185, ranked 203rd player in the nation, number 11 safety from Chesapeake, Virginia, Oscar Smith High School. All right, running right through it. Travis Shaw. I saw our good friend Travis Shaw, 5-star defensive tackle, on your mock class. Not to give it all away. If you haven't looked at it, make sure you go to Don's mock class. I believe it was in last week's Weekly Scoop. You had him coming to UNC. And of course, his Grimsley Whirlies won the state championship a couple of weeks ago. What's your reasoning there? Let's get a little inside scoop into your update on Travis Shaw.
So, as everyone knows, with the exception of Tony Grimes, who chose North Carolina, even though he had a Clemson scholarship offer, but there was a little bit of Clemson kind of dropped the ball, mishandled things there. Besides Tony Grimes, UNC has had zero success when it comes to recruiting against Clemson. And as of right now, and things can definitely change with Travis Shaw, Clemson and UNC are the two main competitors. Georgia's in there also. Maybe it's a three-way competition for them. But I think UNC's location is going to play a big role. It's the only school he visited during the pandemic because of his proximity to his house. He attended the spring game. He's visited there countless times. He has friends at the program. He has to be more familiar there than with any other program because he visited so much. And UNC is going all in on him. There aren't really any other interior defensive linemen that they're recruiting besides him. And, I mean, it's a full court press on him. So it's a little bit of, I'm gambling a little bit with this selection there.
Bad boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
so more just of
I do
intuition.
that every once in a while.
Yeah. And, if you look
it's not like I have some sort of secret inside knowledge from his, brother or something saying North Carolina's a leader. North Carolina is definitely in it, but this is more kind of seeing how I anticipate things kind of playing out. I'm not saying I'm like super confident with it. I'm confident enough to include him on the mock class, though.
There you go. He has 4 crystal ball picks, and they're all to Clemson. So who knows? I was in attendance on the field when they won a national championship. He dealt with a shoulder injury during that, but I think he played every snap on defense, kind of a defensive end for Grimsley's front. So it was good to see the Whirlies bring home the first state championship since 1960. It wasn't there? Don Callahan.
Because I knew you were going to do a great job on it.
There you go. All right, moving along. Dalen Everett. Saw him mentioned. This will be the last player we talk about. Cornerback, 6'1", 185, IMG Academy. I believe, is he from Virginia?
Yeah, so he's originally from the Tidewater area.
Okay, that's right. Number 38 in the nation, 5-star, number 7 cornerback, number 7 player in the state of Florida. You included him in your mock class as well, which was another kind of big-time 5-star that you included. What's going on with him?
So with him, his recruitment has naturally kind of dwindled down. He had I think it's like a top 5. But really, this is going to come down to North Carolina, Georgia, and Clemson. He has official visits scheduled with North Carolina and Georgia. He plans on making a visit to Clemson, but that hasn't been scheduled yet. And I kind of find that curious that that's not scheduled yet. I think he's another situation, another Dre Bly special, a guy who UNC kind of fell off for a little bit, but Dre Bly kind of came in there, really put on the charm with his parents. His dad knows Dre. I think his dad is younger than Dre, but they both kind of played through the same sort of football system growing up. So they know of each other sort of thing. And obviously a guy like that who, goes on playing in the pros, you follow, I would imagine his dad kind of followed his career sort of thing. So North Carolina, I think, is in a great position. The official visits are going to play a major role. You never count out Georgia, you never count out Clemson, but I think that UNC is a great position. And one of the other things I failed to mention, and we mentioned this in the Weekly Scoop, is that his older brother actually just enrolled and will play football at Elon, which is down Interstate 40, which it's not going to be the deciding factor. But if you're kind of like trying to feel most comfortable about a place, knowing your brother, or for the parents, knowing you have 2 boys that are really close together makes things a whole lot easier.
It's a great point, Don. You could probably knock out 2 games if it kind of plays out well for that family in one day. Okay, cool. So those are just some players I picked out to highlight: Deuce Caldwell, Sherrod Koval, Travis Shaw, Dalen Everett. Let's talk about June a little more, Don, to get our listeners set for the upcoming month. You're going to have a big scoop, a big preview next Tuesday. What can you tell us? I mean, is it going to be crazy, visits every day type deal? Like, oh my gosh, he's coming this day. Oh my gosh, he's coming this day. What's it going to be like? And do you expect commitments? Like, what do you kind of, what's kind of cooking, you think?
Yeah, I expect a lot of commitments in June. And I think what we're going to see is that there's 4 weekends in June, and a lot of recruits, the ones who definitely want to get done, get their their recruitment done in the summertime. They're using those 4 weekends for official visits. And then if they want to take a fifth, they're kind of squeezing it in midweek. So that's kind of lays it out. North Carolina has a big camp weekend. I think it's the second weekend in June. They'll have the Showtime camp also at a later date in June. They have some 7-on-7 camps. But yeah, I mean, almost every day there's going to be a recruit on campus. And really every day I expect one of North Carolina's targets to be somewhere, whether it's North Carolina or one of its competition.
Wow. So it's going to be a lot of time for you, a lot of work for you, a lot of tracing down interviews. How are you preparing for the week?
Yeah.
Month? I mean, are you doing your stretches? You getting your reps in? What's looking like?
Yeah, doing my stretches. I'm scaling tall buildings in downtown Raleigh. I've wrestled some tigers, just getting all ready. I mean, really right now it's just checking in with sources, checking in with recruits, double checking to make sure that the schedule they gave me a month ago still matches up, because things change all the time. I mean, things will probably change throughout June, so definitely keep your tabs on inside Carolina, because we'll have all the updates on all those sort of changes. But just kind of setting things up for post visit interviews, and where guys are at. Are you still talking to North Carolina? Does North Carolina want you to officially visit? Do you plan on deciding this summer? I mean, all that sort of stuff. It's just a lot of background stuff that I'm working on right now.
Got to keep me in loop for what I have to do with those for my job as well, please.
Well, you're going on vacation in the middle of it.
I'm going on. I mean, every weekend in the summer, I get out of town. So just how it goes. But I'll have my laptop with me everywhere I go. Yeah, I mean, I don't have kids.
The life.
I made a choice not to have kids at this point in my life. I made a choice not to get married.
So there's no kid. There's never going to be any little Rosses?
No, I made a choice at my age right now. I have no kids, and that has been intentional.
So, but will there be little Rosses eventually?
God willing. Please pray.
Will you name any of your children Don?
Yeah, Don 1 and Don 2.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Let's get into it. Top five documentaries. The top 5 for next time we record. It's going to be the heat of the summer. Dante's already sweating where he is. It's going to be top 5.
Over 90 degrees.
Top 5 summer activities. Right? Is that how you want to phrase it, Don?
Yeah. Whatever you like to do in the summer.
Okay, whatever you want to like to do in the summer. So yeah, maybe not an activity or things you like to do. Anything you like to do in the summer. Let's get the positive vibes up. Can be anything. Eating watermelon, waterfalls, water slides, water parks, whatever you want to do. Top 5 things you like to do in the summer. We'll get a lot of submissions. Let's go through our documentaries. I wanted to do this because I wanted to learn about some documentaries to watch, and I'm struggling to really come up with my top 5. So
yeah, I'm struggling also.
This will maybe spark some things. I love documentaries. I just don't watch enough of them. So let's read a couple here. I'm not going to read too many of these explanations, but there are a bunch on here. I'll start at the top here, Don. John from Lynchburg, My Octopus Teacher, documents a year spent by a filmmaker forging a relationship with a wild octopus in South Africa. Dang, that sounds crazy. Man on the Wire, I've seen this, chronicles Philippe Petit's 1974 high wire walk between the Twin Towers of New York's World Trade Center. Number 3, Restrepo. I think I pronounced that right. Second platoons depicted defending the outpost named after a platoon medic who was killed earlier in a campaign in Afghanistan. Food Inc. examines corporate farming in the United States. I think I've watched some of that, concluding that agro-businesses produces food that's unhealthy in a way that is also environmentally harmful and abusive to both animals and employees. And 1, Searching for Sugar Man. Never heard of this one. Don't research it. Don't look it up. Don't read the tagline. You ruin the twist. Just read it and push. Just find it and push play. Amazing. Searching for Sugar Man. Okay. Don?
All right, I'm going to go with Dylan in Richmond, because this is, I believe, his first-time submitter. Number 5, Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich. I actually started that, didn't finish it. It was pretty good. I felt like it kind of went a lot of the same repeat sort of things. Different girls, but basically the same story.
That guy had a type and a method, so everything was the same.
Yeah, that's true. Number 4, March of the Penguins. Number 3, ESPN, no crossover, the trial of Allen Iverson. I watched that, loved that. I consider there's so many 30 for 30s I've seen, and I considered for my top 5. That was one of them. I did not include it though. Michael Vick, another one I've seen, was really good. Number 1, I have not heard of this. Alabama Snake, absolute bone chilling, based on a snake preacher who forces his wife to stick her hand in a rattlesnake cage to kill her.
Whoa.
Wow.
See, like I would
Okay.
never have heard about that if
Yeah.
Dylan hadn't submitted that. So I'm definitely keep these on here, Don. I'm definitely gonna go back and check out some of these. All right. Let's read our friend Noah from Korea. I'm not gonna read the explanations, it's pretty long. But Icarus is about a biking. It's a big biking documentary with some cheating and some drugs. Free Solo is about a guy's voyage free climbing a wall in a national park. All right, The Fog of War about Robert McNamara. He has American Factory, which I've seen about kind of labor laws and politics between U.S. and China and kind of how they're intertwined in an American Factory. And the Vietnam War, which is like a 10-part documentary by Ken Burns, super in depth, super long. And he has his next one is Man on Wire and Restreptio, which we've already mentioned as well. Are you going to read one more? I'll read one more.
Yeah, I'll go with David and Raleigh. He's another one who I believe this is the first time he has submitted. Number 1, history of the Eagles, great band, and went into the early years, the breakup and the reunion. Number 2, The Last Dance. I think we had a rule that you weren't allowed to include The Last Dance, but
all right.
we'll allow it for David. Hopefully everyone has seen that. That's great. I'm not a huge NBA guy, but I loved it. Number 3, Neat, the story of bourbon, and interview several people involved in the industry. Number 4, Running Down a Dream, tracks Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers from Florida to LA and where he wouldn't compromise for corporate success. And number 5, the Inside Story NBA on TNT. Not a big NBA fan these days, but this is an interesting look at the show Inside the NBA and how it transforms sports TV. Are you an NBA guy?
No, I don't really watch it.
Okay.
Dude, after college basketball ends, dude, I don't watch much sports just by choice. Like I've watched so much football, so much basketball. I would like to get into the NBA and even some other stuff, but I just decide not to.
Okay.
I may watch the finals, but I just I shut it down. I love some of those submissions. I'm definitely gonna check out the Eagles one and the Tom Petty one and Inside Story of the NBA. That I love that group. Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, Jack.
We have no submission from Preston this week, which is very disappointing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Okay, let's read one more here. We got Ding Dong. We have 2 more, so we'll read both of them. Ding Dong from Orange County. Let's see. Catfish. Brain surgeons who model bikinis in their spare time do not exist. Is that a thing?
I've seen Catfish.
Okay, we gotta be careful.
That Catfish is actually what. Well, if you've seen it, you'll understand what he's saying. But the that documentary is what made MTV have the TV show Catfish.
Gotcha.
But I actually, now that he brings it up, I actually like it because instead of like the TV show where they call them ahead of time and say we're going to meet you, they actually went to this woman's house in like the middle of the night. And I remember it was kind of, for me, it was kind of intense because you're like, is someone going to pop out? Because they're just filming. You know what I mean? There's no like warning or whatever. So yeah, that's actually a good one. I wish I would have thought about it when I was doing mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out. Okay, so he's got that one. Beyond Scared Straight, which I don't know what that is. He just says respect your elders. 3, ZZ Top, that little band from Texas, about obviously ZZ Top. 2, Fastest Car, blue collar mechanics building drag cars from junk parts and blowing the doors off spoiled trust fund babies and Lambos. Okay, good description there. And any nature documentary with David Attenborough as the narrator. Dude could be talking about monkey butts for 2 straight hours, and his voice would draw a ding dong in like a moth to a flame. There you go, monkey butts. All right, Don, last one. You read Locke.
So Locke, okay. Icarus, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Icarus.
Icarus. We talked about that already. Free Solo, I think you talked about also. The 2 Escobars, another really good one. I'm not like huge into soccer, but I like that when I watched it. But that was one of the first 30 for 30, so I don't remember it a whole lot. It's not really only based on soccer, but obviously there's the cartel twist. Wild Wild Country, I started that one too, and I don't know, early on it just didn't pull me in. Maybe I need to retry it because other people have recommended that to me.
Yeah.
And last, Going Clear, Scientology and the Prison of Belief, History of Scientology and its founding and present examination of practices. There's a bunch of documentaries on Scientology and just like negative on it. I've watched various ones here and there. The Lee Remini one, a couple other ones, just weird stuff. But
be careful what you say about religion on this podcast, guys. We can't say much.
Is that really a religion, or should I not?
I don't know. I mean, I think it is a religion.
Okay.
Yeah, but you gotta be careful. There's a lot of political and religious documentaries as well. All right, what are your 5, Don?
All right, so like you, I really struggled. And you said that you didn't get a chance to watch a lot. I watch a lot of documentaries, but there's so many that are like, I guess I call like playful documentaries. Like I watched one on the history of Nickelodeon, which was actually pretty good, but I didn't include it in my list. Or like the video game battle of like the 1990s or 1980s, 1990s with Nintendo and Sega, which was really interesting. But then there's like serious ones, like super serious ones, like Ken Burns documentaries. As far as like information, it's just nuts. And I've tried to watch a lot of those. I end up falling asleep. And I have tremendous respect because there's so much information, so much just diving in. But yeah, it's just so dry. I can't imagine though how he can present it in a better way than what he does, because he does an unbelievable job. So I kind of feel, I don't know, like not a great documentary watcher. But anyway, so my 5, like I said, big 30 for 30. The Pony Express I really liked because I've heard a lot about it, but it was, I guess it was in the early 80s. I was alive, but I wasn't really paying attention to sport at that time. So it was great to kind of get like a inside of it and actually learn what was going on. Evil Genius on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen that? I freaking love that.
Yeah. What was that about?
It was about basically this woman and this guy, and they're like just really kind of like, I don't know how to describe them. Just super.
I'm not sure if I would call that a documentary.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing is like there's was Tiger King a documentary?
Yeah, I guess it. I mean, I guess it's a documentary. It's like I would consider that more like a true crime story.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, well, I mean, I guess it documents. But yeah, I don't know. It's a little. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's Tiger King documentaries.
Yeah, and the Free Britney documentary.
I'd call that.
Have you seen that?
I have.
So you think that's a documentary? I didn't know what was going on with her, and I actually forgot how attractive she was, to be honest.
Jeez, keeping your pants. Oh my God, dude.
So Evil Genius is about these two people just intelligent to the point of insane, and this one guy is kind of talked into having a bomb around his neck, and he literally blows up, and it's caught on television because TV cameras happen to come at that time. It's just insane, and like the whole thing is, I loved it. It's like 5 episodes or something like that, or maybe 8 episodes on Netflix. Definitely check that out. Andre the Giant. I like wrestling when I was younger. Andre the Giant was always like a bigger, larger than life sort of thing, but it was interesting just his background, just what in his struggles, and the fact that this guy could like kill an entire keg of beer and be fine, and all the other things he had to deal with was kind of interesting. Number 2, The Best That Never Was, which another 30 for 30 on the running back from Mississippi.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name now, but I never heard of him prior to watching that, so I found that really fascinating. And he could have been one of the best ever if he had better support and guidance with his life. And then the last one, number 1 for me, was OJ Made in America. I don't think it's technically 30 for 30, but it's an ESPN one. They did a really good job, and they dove really, really deep on it. It wasn't just following the trial. It was going deep on OJ and just setting things up, like how he basically, the black community kind of felt like he turned his back on them early on and wanted to be, kind of part of the white community and all that sort of stuff. And which really is kind of crazy how he twists, and then, he kind of looks for that Black community support when he's going through the trial stuff and everything like that. But I thought that was fascinating, especially if you know, it's another one that's like 5 episodes or whatever. But those are my 5.
Awesome.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, some of those are on my list as well, and those are good things. I think there's like I'm looking at a lot of lists right now. I think we have to separate kind of like true crime documentaries from like legit documentaries. I don't know. They're different, but they're the same, you know.
There's definitely a blurred line.
I've seen tons of these true crime things that I'm seeing now that I just don't consider documentaries, you know, like The Staircase and like Evil Genius.
That's another Staircase, another good one.
Yeah. Just don't consider that. I don't know. It is a documentary. It's just like fits a different mold. So, all right, the 5 that I have, let's run through them. I have 1 that has not, I have 2 that have not, no, I have 3 that have not been mentioned that I would consider definitely in my top group. I'll start with the ones that haven't mentioned. OJ Made in America, I agree, was great. And that's kind of like a thing that we lived through. You were probably more able to understand than I was.
Yeah.
I was, you know, 8, 9, 10 around that time, I believe. Huge part of American history. Free Solo is awesome. You have to watch it if you haven't. Pretty cool look at the world of climbing and like into the psyche of this guy who climbs like a sheer cliff with nothing but his himself. And then here's some other ones. Last Waltz is one of the better music documentaries. It profiles this group called The Band and their last show on Thanksgiving weekend back in the 70s, and it has a bunch of guests. It's kind of like a mix between a concert and a documentary. That's one of my favorite bands, The Band. So The Last Waltz have a great soundtrack as well. And then 2 other ones, in no particular order. The U, I was going through 30 for 30s. I would say The U is one of my favorite 30 for 30s.
I like the U. I consider that one.
It had 2 parts. I love the 30 for 30s, but you know, they all run together. And the one that stood out to me was The U.
Yeah.
Profiling was that 90s, late 80s, 90s Miami teams, I guess.
Miami.
Yeah, back when Michael Irvin was on there. But they did the second one profiled the 2000 ones, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And then Fyre Fest, about the music festival that got really messed up down in the Bahamas. There were 2 different ones. There's a Hulu one, I think, and a Netflix one, but really interesting documentary about this guy and him like kind of like creating this festival that was a disaster. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
Oh man, when it came out, it was like a really big deal because there were 2 of them that came out at the same time. Kind of like a millennial Gen Z type situation with influencers and whatnot. All right.
Gotcha.
We good?
We are good. I'm going to definitely add some of these to my watch list.
I'm surprised you didn't have Last Chance You.
Well,
yeah,
is that a documentary?
I don't know if that's a documentary.
I think that's more of like a
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I would classify that as.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I like Last Chance You though.
I know you do. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, enjoyed the show. We want to thank Kamari Edmonds for coming on. Pay attention to the scoops, guys. June's gonna be a huge week, huge month for UNC football recruiting. So the best time to subscribe now and listen to the podcast and read all of Don's intel. There'll be a lot of stuff coming in on the boards and through articles and through weekly scoops. We appreciate you listening.
Thank you.